This is treacherous terrain for Australia's biggest renewable energy project. Snowy 2.0 is buried deep in Kosciuszko National Park, in this unforgiving and unpredictable environment. Deep under these mountains, water will be pumped through 27 kilometres of tunnels between two dams. Snowy 2.0 will essentially be a giant battery, a way to store and release electricity as the grid needs it.
So it's fabulous to have you here today.
This is one of 3 machines boring those tunnels. Florence was commissioned in March last year.
In life, you dare to dream. You dare to think about the worlds that might be.
At 143 metres long and 2,400 tonnes, its mission is to bore 15 kilometres through the mountains. But it's ground to a halt. Tunnel boring machine Florence hit soft ground in December and is stuck.
Well, I must admit, I wasn't that surprised because they've had a lot of difficulty there.
In December, Snowy Hydro announced it was monitoring a surface depression above the borer.
I thought it'd be interesting to try and find where this depression is and how big or small, or whether it was a depression or exactly what it was. So I set about to do that. So I'm going to ride down there.
Cooma local Peter Anderson has kept a keen eye on Snowy 2.0. He says he's concerned about the environmental impacts of the project and thinks there's not enough transparency.
It was a bit like trying to find a needle in a haystack. So I started a fair way out and followed, using my maps, the path of the tunnel. Technically it should be at 9 kilometres, but you know, I thought I'd start looking at about 3 kilometres out and start working my way back in, which is what I did. And then over 4 days of searching for this needle in a haystack, I finally found it, and where it was a great shock to me. When I found it, it wasn't a depression at all. It was a cave-in. It was a hole in the ground, 10, 11 metres in diameter and 4 or 5 metres deep.
Professor Simon Bartlett hasn't worked on Snowy 2.0, but he's a specialist on the engineering required for pumped hydro projects.
Clearly they're going to incur challenges with soft ground, mixtures of rock and sandy, loamy soil, a lot of water runoff from the surface, and the machine was supposedly specially built for that. They thought that would take about 1.5 years because it's supposed to be able to bore 30 metres a day.
This satellite image shows the hole is only about 150 metres from the tunnel entrance. Florence is right underneath. After 10 months of drilling, she's hardly made a dent in the 15-kilometre tunnel.
When I finally found this cave-in depression, I was shocked. I just couldn't understand how they could have travelled so little a distance.
I don't have that number off the top of my head, sorry, Senator. Not a great deal of distance.
Snowy Hydro declined to speak to us for this story, but today the company was called before Senate estimates.
The media has shown photos of a hole that's appeared above the excavation. Is that true? And if so, what are the implications for the project?
That's true, Senator. We've been quite open about that.
You've got a hole through to the surface.
There's obviously connection between the tunnelling works and the surface, correct.
Wow.
We have completed 6 kilometres of tunnels and the surge shafts are going well, and there's 5 major work fronts. So the critical path will move around as the project progresses. But until we get the machine ready for unpausing, then we couldn't say that it would delay the whole project.
Snowy 2.0 was initially slated for completion in 2021. That deadline's now blown out to December 2027. The initial budget was $2 billion. A feasibility study later put that at $3.8 to $4.5 billion. And the project budget as it currently sits is $5.9 billion. And there's an additional $2.2 billion being claimed by the project's lead contractor. The ratings agency S&P has given Snowy Hydro a negative outlook and says it'll require extraordinary government support to prop it up. Snowy Hydro's told 7:30 it hasn't asked for any extra taxpayer money. Energy Minister Chris Bowen declined an interview, and his office didn't answer any of our questions about the project's budget.
Well, if the scheme had come in at $2 billion, it would have been a notable bargain. The fact that it's going to cost a lot more than that isn't all that relevant. The question is it an affordable cost in the overall context of moving rapidly to 100% renewables? And the answer is very clearly yes at $6 billion, and probably still yes at $10 billion. So we have quite a bit of headroom to go before we really start to question the economics of Snowy 2.0.
Is a train smash. The project is not being developed successfully at all. I think the government and the minister urgently need to commission an independent inquiry to assess the likely outstanding liabilities, to take account of the massive transmission project implications, which are a world of woe now, and indeed to understand much better the geological risks before they risk throwing more good money after bad.
Just below the grounds here, tunnel boring machine Florence sits idle, with nearly 15 kilometres of hard drilling ahead of her. There's no indication when she'll get drilling again.
Even if they get past these problems, there's problems just over the hill in Nungar Valley with Nungar Creek, another area that's full of sinkholes and limestone, and you kind of wonder whether this has really been thought out from day one.